I've got a quick question for you. Go ahead, glance down at the corner of your screen. See that little shield icon? The one that's always running? Do you actually know who you've trusted to protect your entire digital life?
I mean, you probably put some thought into it, right? At some point, you did a little research, you picked a brand that seemed solid, you installed it, and then you just felt safe. Job done.
And chances are it was one of these guys. For literally years, they've been the big three in free antivirus protection. And yeah, millions and millions of people think they're making a real choice between three totally separate competing companies. Well, here's the thing. They're not. Today, all three of those little shields, they all report back to the exact same boardroom. So how on earth did that happen? And more importantly, what does that actually mean for your security?
Okay, to really get how we got to this point, we need to rewind, like way back to the dawn of the personal computer, back when these companies were absolutely 100% genuine, fierce competitors. So picture the early days of computing. These companies didn't just pop up as one big happy family. Nope. In '86, the company that would become Avira started up in West Germany. A few years later, in '88, Alwell Software, which you know as Avast, was founded in what was then Czechoslovakia. And then just 3 years after that, its neighbor, Grisoft, that's AVG, got started. Three totally separate companies, born in different places at different times. And for the next 2 decades, that's what they did. They competed. Man, did they compete. We're talking different companies, different tech, all battling it out for your trust and your business. Yet Avira becoming a giant in Europe, AVG basically inventing the freemium model that took over the world, and Avast, it became one of the most installed pieces of software on the entire planet. But then, 2016 happened, and everything started to change.
Right. And this is the moment. This is where that line between having a real choice and just the illusion of choice gets really, really blurry. One single move completely reshaped the entire industry. So, in July of 2016, Avast went out and bought its #1 rival, AVG. And get this, for $1.3 billion. This was way more than just a business deal. This was the birth of an absolute antivirus giant. Just like that, overnight, this new combined company was protecting 160 million mobile devices and a whopping 240 million desktops. To give you some perspective on that, their software was suddenly running on about 1 out of every 3 PCs connected to the internet in the entire world. That's insane. But here's the really critical part. This merger wasn't just about shuffling papers in a boardroom. It went all the way down to the code. The actual technology protecting you became one and the same. From that point forward, if you downloaded AVG, it was running on the exact same antivirus engine as Avast. They started sharing the same malware database. The core protection you were getting was, for all intents and purposes, identical. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The independent testing labs, guys like AV Comparatives, they confirmed it. They ran the tests, and what did they find? The two products performed, well, not just similarly, they were virtually identical in every single test. So you've got 2 different logos, 2 different websites, but underneath it all, it's the same product. But the story doesn't end there. And this is where it takes a much darker turn. Because when you have that much data from that many users, all under one roof, well, the temptation to do something with it can be pretty strong. Too strong, as it turns out. Then, in 2020, it all came out. A huge investigation revealed that Avast, through this subsidiary they owned called JumpShot, was collecting and then selling incredibly detailed user browsing data. Think about that. The very company you installed to protect yourself was secretly selling your digital life to the highest bidder. And we're not talking about some vague, anonymous metadata here. No. We're talking about detailed records of what you searched for, what you bought online, your physical location, even the exact timestamps of when you were doing it. Avast tried to say it was all anonymized, but researchers were quick to point out that with that much detail, it was a real risk that someone could figure out exactly who you were. The backlash, as you can imagine, was massive. Avast had to shut down JumpShot completely, but the damage to their reputation was already done. And then, just this year in 2024, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission brought the hammer down, formally banning the company from selling user browsing data ever again. That tells you just how serious this privacy breach was. And you'd think that would be the end of the story, but nope. Just as the dust from that scandal was settling, the consolidation game went into hyperdrive. First, another huge player, Norton LifeLock, snapped up Avira for $360 million.
Then, in 2022, they made an even bigger play, acquiring Avast and, by extension, AVG, for a mind-blowing $8 billion. After all that buying, the parent company decided to rebrand. So today, you've got Norton, Avast, AVG, Avira, and even another one, Bullguard, all sitting under a single corporate umbrella called Gen Digital Inc. And there you have it. The illusion of choice is now pretty much complete. Okay, so now you know the whole backstory. You know who owns who, but that still leaves the big practical question. If you actually need protection, which one of these sibling products should you even choose? Let's break it down.
All right, when you actually put them head-to-head, a pretty clear winner starts to emerge. Look, on protection, they're all excellent, no question. But Avira really starts to pull ahead in a couple of key areas. For one, its engine is cloud-based, which basically means it's way lighter on your computer's resources. It won't slow you down as much. Plus, its free version is super generous with features. And maybe most importantly, it doesn't have that massive data privacy scandal hanging over its head. So here's the bottom line. For most people, out of these three, Avira is just the strongest choice. You're getting that top-tier protection, but without the performance slowdown or, the troubling privacy history that comes with its corporate siblings. And this really gets to the core of it all. An antivirus program has access to everything on your computer. I'm talking your files, your private messages, every single website you visit. When you grant that level of access, trust isn't just some optional feature. It is the entire product. It's the whole reason it exists. So what this all adds up to is that a massive chunk of the antivirus market you and I use is now controlled by one single company. That fierce competition that used to push these companies to be better, to innovate, to be accountable to their users, a lot of that is just gone. And that's really the main thing to take away from all this. In an industry that is built entirely on trust, knowing who you're actually giving that trust to isn't some small detail. It's fundamental. It's everything. It's just about being a smart consumer in this digital world where, let's be honest, the lines of who owns what can get pretty darn blurry. So the next time you glance at that little shield icon in the corner of your screen, the question to ask isn't just, am I protected? It's, who am I trusting? And is that company still doing enough to earn that trust?